welcome. Today, we're talking about the Serengeti of the lawns of Massachusetts. We're going to talk about fireflies and robins and rabbits and how they all, partake in the lawn ecology. And I'm Rob Moyer from the Ocean River Institute. And with me today is Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob Maughn. I'm a rising senior at Plymouth State University, and I major in environmental policy, and I have a GIS, or Geographic Interface System certificate.
Welcome. Sophie?
Oh, you're on mute.
My name is Sophia Aronow, and I graduated from Clark University's Accelerated Program in Environmental Science and Policy, and I currently work at a solar.
I'm a rising junior at Boston College, and I'm majoring in environmental studies with a concentration in climate change and societal adaptation.
Welcome back. In an earlier show, we went under the lawn turf and talked about nematodes and springtails, and what am I missing here? Bacteria and the mycorrhizae, fungi, and all the different critters under the ground. And today we're going to talk about some critters. And all of this has to do with the Ocean River's campaign for people across the state to pledge not to fertilize their lawns so that the grass will grow deeper and fuller because it's getting the nutrients from the soil instead of from your fertilizer bag. And so we're trying to get people to pledge throughout the country and we're going town by town. So Bob has got a page set up for Westwood, and Erin's got a page set up for her town in Glastonbury, and Sophia is out in Worcester. For more information about those pages, you can visit our website, www.oceanriver.org, and you can email us at info@oceanriver.org. If you go to the homepage right now, you'll see that we have 6 different campaigns, and one of them is about lawns. And so if you want to follow along on some of the details, you can click on that. But let's get down to the animals. Let's start off with those fireflies. Bob, tell me about some fireflies.
Massachusetts actually has 20 species of fireflies, and there's actually over 2,000 species in the entire world. And of course, what connects them all is their bioluminescence, their signature yellow glow. And but some of them actually in Massachusetts, they emit a faint blue light, which is certainly interesting. And it's only really indigenous to the Northeast and the Southeast. And so the firefly's life cycle is also pretty interesting. They lay their eggs in the midsummer, and the larvae, which are called glowworms, they hatch in the late summer. And now the glowworms, they lurk under the forest floor, and they mostly try and survive throughout the fall and winter. And they use their light to attract prey. And eventually they enter their pupa phase, and then in the spring, and then they hatch into their adult firefly form in the early summer. And typically this form only lasts about 3 weeks, and they don't actually eat any food in this period. They just attract a mate, and then eventually after the few weeks where they're alive, they die out, and the life cycle begins again for them.
That is so cool that they glow to attract their prey. Snails have these 2 eye stalks, and I guess they can use their eyes to see where the glowworms are. You were telling me that they eat snails sometimes, or slugs?
Yeah, they eat snails, other insects. Sometimes they'll eat very small rodents. Not very small rodents, very small amphibians.
That's great. The rodent-eating firefly. Here we go. Okay, not in Massachusetts. The nuclear waste hasn't gotten that bad yet.
No.
But I often see them out in the fields. What's to do with fields and fireflies?
So typically, actually, fireflies don't really like to be. Fireflies' habitats aren't actually fields. But the reason why we used to see so many fireflies in fields is because there used to be a massive abundance of them. There were so many fireflies that they simply moved over to fields as a way to find a place where they can mate with other fireflies and just have a place to live and exist for their period of time when they're in their adult phase.
Yeah, so that's you see further across the field, but it doesn't mean that there are probably more. Well, where do they live if not in the fields?
Well, they actually live in forested areas. Is where they hatch their. It's where they lay their eggs, and where the hatchlings, the glowworms, like to function most of their life. They live under the forest floor and the tree cover. But mainly, what's really important is that they lay their eggs near bodies of water. And most of the glowworms, they stay near these bodies of water for most of their life because it provides a good foods. It provides a place where they can hunt for food and a place where they can get water to drink, and they can grow into their adult form.
Yeah. So what's happening with fireflies these days?
Well, it's a real tragedy because firefly population has been on decline the past few years. And there's a few factors. Habitat loss is probably the biggest deal, though. I mean, forests getting cut down for new development, roads coming in, environmental degradation of that sort. What it does is it kills the glowworms in this phase where they're in their youth phase, and that's where they're most vulnerable. And unfortunately, when these populations get cut down, they don't reach adulthood, and they can't continue to mate, and they can't continue the species.
Right.
And light pollution is another really fascinating one. So fireflies in their mating process, what they do is they sync their flashing. And so once two fireflies have their flashing is synchronized, they actually start to mate. However, passing lights from like cars or from flashlights can actually trick the firefly into assuming that it's another firefly, and the firefly they were trying to mate with doesn't actually synchronize with them. So they actually stop mating, which has caused a decrease in the population because there's
this life of fireflies by swinging the back door so they get some flashing effects and stuff. So are pesticides a problem?
Certainly pesticides are a problem, and they're especially a problem near streams and ponds where the glowworms live in their youth phase. And when pesticides are added to lawns, like we do with pesticides, unfortunately, when the rain comes, the runoff brings down the pesticides into bodies of water, like streams and rivers, where the glowworms tend to live. And unfortunately, that poisons the water. And a big issue is that that's been infected by pesticides, and they'll die from that consumption, or they'll simply drink water that's been infected by the pesticide.
Well, that's really sad. If you we have found that if you just don't put the pesticides and chemicals on, the grass is greener and it's fuller, and it provides more food for the animals and stuff. So it's really important that we not those poor glowworms getting. Of course, they're not in the grass, so much for that idea. Okay, so help me out, Bob. What are some final thoughts here about fireflies?
Well, I mean, fireflies are a symbol of summer and youth. I remember when I was young, I would go running around the woods trying to find them. And it's always just so fascinating to see these little creatures glowing in the dark. And it's a real tragedy that they're dying out. And there's pretty simple things we can do to stop it. And probably like one thing that we can all do right now is stop using pesticides, because if we stop using the pesticides, it won't completely solve the problem, but certainly it will help. It'll help immensely, and it's something that we can all do right now. Easy solution that can bring the fireflies back, and I'm sure that nobody wants those fireflies. They're
right. No pesticides, no forest cutting down. Keep the habitat healthy and clean.
And
go ahead, I cut you off.
Yeah. Just if you guys, certainly join our campaign. Take the pledge to stop using pesticides on lawns on our site.
Yay! So that's how we're going to help the fireflies. Moving right along. What's next? I guess we got Erin, you were going to go next. What are you talking about today?
So I'm talking about rabbits. The New England cottontail rabbit is one of the most common species living in our area. And rabbits usually only live for around 2 years, but they're pretty well known for their ability to reproduce very quickly. Rabbits burrow underground to create their own homes, usually in the woods or even in your lawn. Rabbits aren't picky eaters at all. They'll eat most kinds of vegetation. They're great composters because they're going to eat weeds and other garden and vegetable waste, and they will actually provide manure to fertilize your lawn. Rabbits also eat invasive weeds, and by removing them from your lawn, space is freed up for the natural grass to grow. And this will provide birds, insects, and other creatures food, and it's also great for the lawn ecosystem.
That's so cool. You think about bringing goats to eat invasives, but let rabbits do it. That's really cool. What kinds of lawns do rabbits like?
Rabbits definitely prefer biodiverse, healthy lawns. So if you spot a rabbit on your lawn, it's probably because it's well established. This type of lawn provides a wide variety of plants to eat for a rabbit. An unhealthy lawn that's treated with synthetic chemicals like fertilizers or pesticides doesn't have a wide variety of plants, so rabbits avoid these types of lawns. Rabbits also love clovers. It's one of their favorite types of plants to eat. And rabbits nibble from one plant to another, and in this process, seeds are being dispersed from the plants.
That's right. So they're passing it, spreading the wealth and causing denser, more lush lawns to grow because they spread the seeds around the lawn and stuff. So there seem to be more rabbits than ever. Tell me about that. Is that just me or yeah?
No, so there seems to be a connection between the abundance of rabbits and the recent increase in rats. We've started using a poison on the rats that thins out their blood, and this actually lets the rat live for a short period of time, but then it'll go into hiding and die off out of sight. At the Tufts Veterinary Center, people have been bringing in dead red-tailed hawks and great-horned owls and other birds of prey that have died from the rat poison, unfortunately. So this loss of predators, like the hawks and the owls, have led to the rabbits being very bold and actually standing out in places. They're pretty fearless and numerous. And yeah, it's an unfortunate situation.
It really is. I've been walking around Fresh Pond, and there's Buzz the red-tailed hawk that lives there. And he was found dead, and they brought him in, and sure enough, he had died from the poisoning of the rat poisoning. And we used to see them in Harvard Square, right on the hotel, the Harvard Square Hotel right there on the side of the building. The red tails would perch on the T and the H of the hotel or whatever. And now I don't see them anymore. So it's really sad. Fortunately, when I get further out of town, I see them. So I hope that I'm not worried about the species surviving, but it's although in this case, it's great to have rabbits. I do like having rabbits. So what are some final thoughts you have for us?
Yeah. Rabbits are good for your yard because they eat invasive weeds, and rabbits enhance the ecosystem. And you can help out rabbits by joining in our campaign to not use chemicals on lawns and to go completely natural.
Woohoo! Let's go. I mean, this is so great. Because I live in Somerville, so it looks like it's all industrial. And then when I see rabbits everywhere, it tells me that my neighbors, like me, we're not putting the chemicals on our lawn because the rabbits are there. Yeah. And I don't see them detouring anyone's property either. Okay, Sophie, talk to us about the robins.
Yes, so robins are seen on pretty much everybody's lawn. They're a very common bird, but they're a bird that everybody likes, and they have a very familiar, pleasant song. So we usually see them in the springtime picking at worms on the soil. And at that time, the worms are actually coming up for air because the soil is a little bit more moist than usual. So they're a quintessential bird, basically, in America. They also eat berries, and they eat a lot of other insects too. Yeah,
that's great. But do they migrate, and are they being affected by climate change?
Yeah, they might be being affected by climate change and global warming, because usually we would see them migrate over the wintertime, but lately I think more people have been seeing them kind of hopping around in their lawn over the snow. So yeah, that could be an issue.
Because you're seeing them more in the winter and stuff. What about, so robins are integral with the lawns, and what do we have to worry about, the chemical versus natural and stuff like that?
So because robins eat worms that directly come from the soil, when we put chemicals into the soil and into the grass, like from herbicides like Roundup and also a lot of fertilizers, they're basically directly ingesting these chemicals. So it's just really bad for us to do that. And you're also kind of overall just altering the habitat of them a little bit, and the ecosystem entirely is just affected by herbicides. So you really want to stop doing that.
Yeah, it's when you apply fertilizer on the surface, then the grass roots stay on the surface where the food is, and the whole lawn can compact and become impassable, impermeable to, and it dries out, that gets these bare patches, and that becomes a wasteland for worms. So if you don't fertilize, the roots will go down and open the soil up and make way for worms, basically, to then go around there and turn stuff around and stuff. I guess we talked about worms last time, so I won't get carried away with that. Was I going to ask you about how do you, what should we do to protect worms, to protect the robins on your lawn?
Well, yeah, so one thing that you can do definitely is just not putting herbicides or chemicals on your lawn. That will just, as we've been talking about, just make your grass a lot healthier and just protect the entire ecosystem there. So don't do that. And also there has been studies done that showed that robins might prefer shorter grass, and that might be because it's easier for them to pick at the worms or maybe just tell if worms are there. So that's just kind of an interesting point also.
Yeah, another one is that we don't know, we use glyphosate in the Roundup that sticks to the plants. And we don't know, the plants end up being little bits of plants that are ground up by the worms. And so we don't know how much glyphosate loading, bioaccumulation is happening in robins. And so it's important that we not use Roundup for the possibility of having a silent spring, which was too much of the herbicide DDT, or the pesticide DDT. So does cutting the grass frequently make a difference?
Yeah, so cutting the grass can be better. People might need to look at stuff a little bit more. Yeah, I think it might be easier for robins to find food, basically, especially in the springtime, because that's when they're usually on your lawn.
Well, it's so funny. They don't want to part the grass. They want short grass so they can get around it. Isn't that amazing? Okay, I guess I'll go out there and cut some more. It's a good idea to keep your grass kind of long. But yeah. Where am I now? What are some final thoughts you have for the lawns and robins?
Yeah, so pretty much everybody knows what robins are, and they're a really important bird here. So we really need to protect them. So definitely don't add chemicals to your lawn where they're to kind of preserve their habitat and protect the local ecosystem, because if the insects are healthier and the grass is healthier, then robins are going to be healthier. So
yes, exactly. So we need to be better stewards and just take better care and just not pollute. If you don't want to eat it, don't let it get out there, because everything's interconnected, and when you harm the soil, you harm the worm. And they have a cheerly kind of call that is just cheery. And so it's just wonderful living in the company of robins. Thank you, Sophia, for talking about robins. We have about 5 minutes. So I want to update the listeners how that each of you are working in a community, your hometown, basically, on our campaign for clean waters for climate restoration. And what's neat is the way you're working with community groups. And so let's just go around quickly and talk about where we are and what's like 2 groups that you may be working with on this, gathering people to pledge not to spread fertilizer, quick release fertilizer, or Roundup. Erin, let's start with you since you're out of state.
Yeah, sure. I'm from Glastonbury, Connecticut, right outside of Hartford. And I have been in talks with the Glastonbury Conservation Commission. And I'm also talking to the Connecticut Science Center, which is stationed in Hartford.
Yeah, and it's been really great the way the Conservation Commissioner is working with you on putting together a testimonial letter of how the CONCOM supports this campaign of ours. It's important to have these kinds of testimonials on our pages. And so Erin's got a Glastonbury. What's the name of your page?
I want to say it's Glastonbury Lawns for Climate Restoration.
That's it. You got it. So
Yeah.
check that out. Sophie, where are you?
Worcester, Massachusetts. So we have the Worcester, Massachusetts lawns, or the Worcester Lawns for Climate Restoration page that you'll find on the Ocean River Institute website. There's a video there. I've been kind of talking with the Tower Hill Botanical Garden folks. And also there's I don't think it's like a Worcester Garden Club. So Garden Club. Yeah.
And Bob?
I've been so I'm from Westwood, Massachusetts, right outside Boston. I've been in contact with the Westwood Conservation Committee, as well as a representative from the Country Club in Brookline.
Right, the Country Club, in Brookline is. We've been having we had long ago a good conversation with the head lawn keeper there, and that's quite a place. We've also talked to the Weston lawns keeper for the town of Weston. But I know in Westwood, you're very proud of the golfing situation. So you've got a good course there. And what we're asking people to do is to treat their lawns, not according to the bags of fertilizer or the Roundup ads, but treat your lawns the way the golf courses do, which is they only feed the grass when it's hungry. And so, yeah, they get a lot of divots or football players or whatever pulling it up. Then they're going to need, quick green up in those places. But the quick green up doesn't, it's like giving your kids sugar for breakfast. They perk up quick and then they just collapse. So it's better to use slow release, and a established lawn shouldn't need fertilizer at all. And also the golf courses are very good about not letting anything they put on the grass go anywhere else. And so they don't have that pollution problem. And we invite you to join with us. I'm worried about the time running out here. And my telephone runs out and I don't know, it closes, I don't know what the time is. Yeah, so we urge you to check us out at www.oceanriver.org, and you'll see a lawns campaign. We see it as doing a job for climate restoration, because a blade of grass, if you step on it, it stimulates it and it will photosynthesize more. And when it does that, it's pulling carbon dioxide out of the air and is converting it into liquid nitrogen that's literally pushing into the ground to feed the soil and the microbes and the fungi and the bacteria and the springtails and on, and the worms eventually. So if a lawn puts down a ton of liquid carbon, a ton of soil, that means it's taken out of the sky 3.64 tons of CO2. So if an acre of lawn can grow an inch of soil, that's the equivalent of pulling 1,094 tons of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. So Massachusetts has over 2,000 square miles of lawns. And so we want to send packing the quick release fertilizer and just have these guys go natural, be the right habitat. So we got happy robins, happy rabbits, happy fireflies, and all the rest of the menagerie of animals. These fuller lawns will hold water longer to better protect your home from extreme weather events and reduce the droughts that we're having, because the landscape is able to hold the water instead of losing it all off the surface and stuff. So again, thank you for signing our petition, writing some comments, spreading the word at the oceanriver.org. Yeah, oceanriver.org. Bob, thanks for telling us about the fireflies.
Yep, you're welcome.
Erin, thanks for the bits about rabbits.
Of course.
And Sophie, thanks for the robins.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Until next time, thanks a lot for listening to What You Need to Know here on CCTV. I'm Rob Moyer from the Ocean River Institute. Please take care of yourself, and then take a moment to take care of your your neighborhood, and this planet of ours. Thanks a lot for listening.